Welcome to this month's edition of the Responsibility Roundup. Our theme this month is responsibility in government, and we are here at the beautiful Utah State Capitol meeting with a phenomenal example of responsibility, Attorney General Sean Reyes. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you very much, Amy. It's great to be with you.
Thank you. Just a couple questions for you. So when you think of responsibility, what does that mean to you in your personal life? What does it mean to you in the position that you hold?
Oh, wow. What does responsibility mean to me? It's multifaceted. And let me just start off by saying I love what the Responsibility Foundation stands for. I love what the Statue of Responsibility stands for. The symbolism is amazing to me. The two hands clasped, that we all at times in our life have the responsibility to lift others up, and at times we have the need and responsibility to accept help. That in terms of my personal life is significant because my father, who was the nephew of the president of the Philippines and doing very well in his country, when a tyrant and a dictator came to power, spoke out against the regime and was chased from his own country, came to the United States and needed to accept a lot of help to be able to establish himself and his citizenship here. And growing up, I heard from him always this challenge that every opportunity that I had to take the responsibility to remember that with the blessing of the freedoms that we enjoy in this country, that there comes a responsibility and that we should give back every chance we get, particularly to this country that took him in when his own country would not. So the notion of freedom, I think many people believe that is the ultimate and highest good, and certainly it's a critical aspect of our Constitution, and liberty is an incredibly important gift that we have from God. However, freedom and liberty alone only give you the chance to do good or bad. And so they're somewhat neutral, in fact, paired with responsibility, which I interpret as sort of the better angel of our nature, playing on us to serve and to help others and to give back. Then freedom and liberty are truly miracles, in a positive way. And so it's that pairing of responsibility, which is, again, in the history of the foundation and the history of the statue, that whole notion of bookending, the Statue of Liberty with the Statue of Responsibility on two ends of our country to remind us that we should choose with the liberties that we have to always be responsible, to do good, to give back to people wherever we can. That was my father's constant message to me even as a young man. And in my position now as the Attorney General, I understand with the power that's been vested into me by the people that I have a great deal of responsibility. And I know it sounds maybe like a Spider-Man commercial, right? Spidey says, with great power comes great responsibility. But I believe that's true. And I believe the best public officials amongst us are those that are humble and appreciate that it's the people who have given them that power, and that while they wield that power, they have to do it responsibly. They have to do it with restraint. They have to do it with an understanding of what that power can do to bless and protect the lives of people, but also to hurt others. And every decision that we make in my office, we do with a great deal of thought, appreciating that these decisions we make affect people, not just within our state, but around the world.
Thank you. Great examples there. What is something that you personally witnessed in your professional life, an act of responsibility that has taken place that had a positive impact?
Wow. There's so many examples of people and organizations exercising sort of responsibility in a sense of reaching beyond themselves to help lift others. It's hard to pinpoint only one, but having had an experience recently where I saw again firsthand the liberating aspects of this one particular group. It's called Operation Underground Railroad. Its founder, Tim Ballard, left his comfortable job as a career law enforcement officer in the federal government, very successful there, but left his badge and his pension and the security of that environment to really step out into faith. And he needed a lot of hands up, help from different people. So in that moment, he was very vulnerable. He stepped out, let God lift him up, let friends lift him up to begin a movement to eradicate modern day slavery. And now he's in a position with an organization that's only several years old to go out and help become a voice for victims everywhere. And they set up trafficking stings around the world, dealing directly with presidents and prime ministers and ambassadors, liberating children, women, men from sex slavery, from labor trafficking, from organ harvesting, some of the worst and most heinous things imaginable. And then they work with these victims to help them heal afterwards, to get the mental and emotional and psychological assistance and therapy that they need. They help them get training, education, job skills, and again, help them recapture their lives and overcome the atrocities that they've endured. I can't think of a better example of using time and being responsible with the gifts that God's given you to reach out and bless the lives of other people, to lift them up. And I know my good friend Gary Lee Price, I know my good friends on the board of the foundation would agree with me that people like Tim Ballard and like his army of abolitionists with Operation Underground Railroad are the people that embody the spirit of what the Statue of Responsibility represents and what the foundation represents.
Absolutely. He has been awarded a responsibility award for those actions. That's amazing. Thank you for thinking of him.
Of course.
So in what ways do you feel that the state or federal governments might potentially be more responsible?
What ways can the state and the federal government be more responsible? That is a great question. I alluded to it a little bit before, but it's something I think about all the time. It weighs on me. Especially an office like my own. I'll use that for an example. We are a prosecutorial office. We're an investigative office. We have the power to literally destroy people's lives, their businesses, and with that power comes such a tremendous amount of responsibility. We have the freedom, the liberty to exercise that power because the people have vested it with us. And so if I can imagine one thing that I would recommend all public office holders, all government agencies, recommend to them, it would be, again, to be humble, to remember that it's the people who've given you that power, and every exercise of that power can have devastating effects on people's lives. It's not just a job that we show up for and do. And my people in my office have heard this probably ad nauseum. It's not just any old case. It's not just another thing that's coming across your desk. It's people's lives. These are decisions about whether children stay with their families. These are decisions about whether businesses continue to do businesses and jobs are created or destroyed. This is about whether people's freedom. This is what is at stake, and we have to be so careful. I wouldn't say we have to shy away from our duty and responsibility. We want to be aggressive and put, for instance, truly bad actors away. But let's make sure that in that zeal to do something good, that we're not inadvertently harming innocent people and average citizens. And sometimes law enforcement, sometimes government agencies get too focused on an end result, whether that's a prosecution or an administrative action, a fine, and they lose the perspective of let's do justice, let's do the right thing. And sometimes the right thing is not prosecuting people. It's after an investigation, letting things go, or being even quiet about how we do an investigation, not assuming anybody is guilty. And so all of those things deal with my own office, but I think they're scalable and I think they're applicable to any government office. I joke often about politicians, and I think politicians, I use in a pejorative sense, politicians think about what a particular office can do to serve them and their ambitions and their needs. Public servants, I use as a foil in contrast. I think they ask a different question, and that is, what can I do to serve the office and the title and the people that it represents? And maybe that sounds a little Pollyannish or really too simplistic, but I think it's a good dichotomy of what good government is versus what bad government is about. Bad government is, I have this power and I can do what I want, and I think it leads to abuse. And I would caution anybody in a role like mine or any government agency to just be careful and remember who gave you that power. I add one final thing to you. I have worked in partnership with an organization called the Responsibility for Alcohol Use. And so we do PSAs in English and in Spanish, and we counsel teens and others that if they are going to use alcohol, making no moral judgment about if those who are old enough and it's legal, to make sure that they're using it responsibly, and then for teens to not use it at all because it's illegal. And if for whatever reason they decide to not obey the law and end up using it, because we know teens sometimes will do what they want to do, to be so careful about driving and operating vehicles or doing anything else. And so we've worked together with an organization. It's interesting to me that, again, it's about responsibility. And I think that's what the Responsibility Foundation can do. It can inspire organizations all around the country to work with kids all the way to adults and start inculcating them from a very young age to think about the consequences of their actions and how they're going to use these hard-fought freedoms and liberties that servicemen and women and our forefathers have established and fought for and defended.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Attorney General Sean Reyes, thank you so much for spending the day with us.
Thank you, Amy. It's awesome to see you guys. Keep up the great work, and God bless you.